What if I told you that in the last 30 years, nearly every suit brand you have ever admired, houses like Brioni, once one of the most respected names in Neapolitan tailoring, has been quietly gutted from the inside, not by competition, not by changing tastes, but by the conglomerates who bought them, stripped out the handwork, replaced the tailors with machinery, and kept charging you the same price while handing you something worth a fraction of it. And that a small group of houses quietly refused that deal, kept their tailors, held their standards, and kept making the real thing while everyone around them sold out? What you are about to see is the list the luxury marketing industry would prefer you never found. Because if you know which brands are still doing it properly, you will stop paying $5,000 for a fused chest and a logo. And for context, a fused chest is a jacket whose interior structure is glued rather than hand-stitched, a shortcut that saves manufacturers weeks of labor and costs you decades of drape and start putting your money where the craft actually is. The brands that moved to fused construction and never told you? Zegna, Canali, most of what sits behind glass in the mall luxury corridor, good suits. Not the suits we are talking about today. There are 5 of them left, 5 houses that held the line while everything around them folded, and 2 of them are going to surprise you. At number 4, a Neapolitan house that has been holding the secret of the modern suit since 1932, a family whose name most men have never thought to look up. And at number 1, the house with 350 master tailors, 25 hours of handwork in every single suit, and a tailoring school running since 2000 that has simply refused every corporate acquisition that came knocking. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because every week on this channel we go deeper into what luxury actually means, and more importantly, what it does not. This knowledge belongs with you, not with the marketing department. So let's get into it. Here are the last 5 suit brands still making them properly, ranked from extraordinary to absolutely irreplaceable. Number 5. Ring Jacket. The Japanese house that mastered a craft that was never theirs and then quietly surpassed some of the people who invented it. They were founded in Osaka in 1954 at a moment when Japan's suit industry was largely producing fast, inexpensive garments for a post-war consumer market hungry for something, anything, that looked like prosperity. The founder, Joichi Fukushima, took a different path. He made multiple trips to Naples over the following decades, studying the southern Italian construction methods that the rest of Japan was ignoring entirely. Soft shoulders, minimal padding, hand-attached sleeves with that gathered sleeve head that lets a jacket follow your body instead of fighting it. The men who build suits for a living, who look inside the jacket rather than at the label, have been aware of Ring Jacket for years. What they kept finding was full canvas, a floating interior chest structure hand-stitched to the jacket face, never glued, requiring hours of skilled labor that a fused alternative eliminates entirely. Hand-sewn shoulders and an attention to cloth tension that the major Italian brands had started quietly abandoning the moment they had shareholders to answer to. For you, today, what that means is this. Ring Jacket produces ready-to-wear garments at a standard most bespoke houses would not be embarrassed by, still made in their Osaka factory, still hand-sewn in the areas where machine work collapses the quality of a finished garment. The materials are sourced from the same English, Scottish, and Japanese mills that supply the finest sartorias in Naples. Cloth from the same Biella and Yorkshire producers you would find in a Kiton or a Rubinacci. Names like Holland and Sherry and Loro Piana appear on the bolts that feed this workshop. And the price sits significantly below the Italian originals, with a finish that matches most of them. The Japanese suit industry went 2 directions after the war. One chased volume. Ring Jacket chased the craft. The evidence of that choice is in every hand-stitched shoulder, in every jacket waiting in a quiet boutique right now for the man who bothers to check what is actually inside what he is about to buy. Number 4. Rubinacci. The Neapolitan house that has been holding the blueprint for the modern suit since 1932 and whose name most men have never had cause to look up. Gennaro Rubinacci opened London House on Via Filangieri in Naples in 1932. The name was deliberate. London was the capital of men's style, and Gennaro admired British tailoring enough to borrow its reputation while building something entirely different. He stripped out the rigid chest, the heavy padding, the shoulder structures that made a British suit look and feel like armor. What replaced them was lighter, softer, and by every measure of what a garment should do for the man wearing it, more correct. Those who study Neapolitan tailoring with any seriousness have always recognized Rubinacci as one of the houses where the form was codified. The mappina shoulder, the construction that allows a jacket to fall over your frame with absolute naturalness, no manufactured shape, no padded illusion, was refined here. The barchetta breast pocket, shaped like the hull of a small boat, cut on a precise angle that requires exceptional skill to execute cleanly, was standardized within these walls. In 2016, Rubinacci became the first Neapolitan tailor to enter the permanent collection of the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. The institution that holds the world's most important design objects decided a Rubinacci suit belonged among them. The fashion industry barely noticed. A bespoke Rubinacci jacket requires more than 54 hours of handwork. The house holds an archive of over 60,000 meters of vintage cloth, some of it more than 60 years old, available only to their bespoke clients. The third generation of the Rubinacci family runs it now. What that means for you is access to the house that was present at the creation of the garment you are trying to buy, still being made the way it was made in 1932, still run by the family, still waiting in Naples for the man who knows what he is looking at. A bespoke commission starts at around €6,000. Every hour of that price is accounted for by the hands that put it there. If you are starting to see the pattern here, if you are realizing that the brands most men have never heard of are the ones actually delivering, do me a favor right now. Hit that like button. It helps this channel reach the men who are tired of paying luxury prices for something that stopped being luxury a long time ago. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the time. Number 3. Anderson and Sheppard. The house on Old Burlington Street in London that has been cutting the same jacket in the same way since 1906 and that has never once been acquired by anyone. Anderson and Sheppard was founded by Per Anderson, a Swedish tailor who trained under Frederick Schulte, the man who developed the English drape for the Duke of Windsor. That construction, the London cut, is defined by a high, small armhole, a generous chest, and a natural shoulder line that requires no padding because the cut itself creates the shape. A jacket that does what the shoulder is supposed to do without artificially manufacturing it. More than a century later, Anderson and Sheppard still make suits this way. It is Savile Row tailoring in its most disciplined, unreconstructed form. The same tradition that made that street the most copied address in men's clothing, executed by a house that never needed to chase it because they helped define it. The men who have understood this for generations include Fred Astaire, who wore Anderson and Sheppard his entire adult life, and who understood that a jacket's ability to stay still on the body while the arms move freely was not a minor detail. And King Charles, who has worn them for decades. What both men recognized was a house that never chased what the market wanted and simply kept making the jacket correctly. Here is the construction detail that separates Anderson and Sheppard from nearly every other tailor still operating at this level. The chest canvas is cut on the bias at 45 degrees to the grain of the cloth and hand-padded in-house. Anderson and Sheppard is one of the very few houses left in the world that still makes its own shoulder pads, cut to their precise specification by staff who have been trained there, often from apprenticeship, for decades. There are over 60 people on site. The cutting team has collectively dedicated more than a century and a half of combined experience to their bespoke clients. The cloth they cut is often sourced from the same Savile Row stalwarts who have supplied the street for generations: Holland and Sherry, Scabal, Dormoy, mills whose names appear in no advertising because they have never needed to advertise. A bespoke suit starts at around £5,500. Every stitch on that jacket is justified by the people who put it there. The house that created the English drape, still making it in London, still independent, still on a street where most of the neighbors have long since stopped doing anything remotely close to this. Number 2. Cesare Attolini, the house where the modern suit was invented in 1930. In 1930, Vincenzo Attolini walked into his workshop in Naples and cut a jacket unlike anything that had existed before it. He removed the shoulder pads. He eliminated the rigid interior chest structure. He raised the armholes and softened the chest so the jacket would fall against the body rather than stand away from it. His stated ambition was to make a jacket as light and easy to wear as a pullover. He succeeded. That construction, spalla camicia, the shirt sleeve shoulder, the barchetta pocket, the floating canvas chest, is what Neapolitan tailoring means. Every brand in the world that claims to practice it traces its lineage back to that workshop in 1930. Houses like Isaiah, which has built an international business on the same Neapolitan tradition, are working in a language that Vincenzo Attolini wrote. The craftsman who can feel the difference between a hand-rolled lapel and a machine-set one, who can read a jacket the way a surgeon reads a body, have been returning to Cesare Attolini for 3 generations. Each suit produced in their Castel Nuovo workshop requires between 25 and 30 hours of handwork by 130 specialist tailors, each dedicated to a single stage of production. One tailor cuts the collar, one pads the canvas, one sews the buttonholes by hand, cut with a sharp blade, where a single misstroke ruins the jacket and the entire piece begins again. Pick stitching, the row of hand-sewn stitches along the lapel edge that is the single most visible indicator of whether a jacket was finished by a machine or a person, runs on every garment that leaves this workshop. For the man buying today, a Cesare Attolini suit means one thing above all others. What you are wearing is not a reinterpretation of the Neapolitan tradition. It is the tradition itself, produced by the family that invented it, by the same methods in the same city, to standards that have not moved since Vincenzo Attolini set them down nearly a century ago. Entry-level ready-to-wear begins around $2,500. For what is inside that jacket, that number deserves a moment of serious thought. When Brioni was acquired by Kering in 2011 and the creative directors began rotating every 12 to 18 months, 3 of them in under 3 years, Cesare Attolini noticed and changed nothing. Still in Castel Nuovo, still family-run, still making the jacket correctly, in a workshop that is waiting right now for the man who finally knows what correct actually means. Number 1. Kiton. The house with 350 master tailors, 25 hours of handwork in every ready-to-wear suit, a school training the next generation since 2000, and a record of 0 corporate acquisitions, because they simply refused every single offer. Kiton was founded in 1968 by Ciro Paione in Arzano, outside Naples. Paione was a textile man before he was a tailor. He understood fabric at a level most suit brands never reach, how a thread's weight affected its drape, how a floating canvas would slowly adjust to the body wearing it over the first year of ownership, becoming something that had never quite existed before. He built Kiton around a single conviction, that it was possible to make the finest ready-to-wear suit in the world, by hand, without industrial shortcuts, at a scale that could sustain a business. More than 50 years of evidence confirms that he was right. Walk into the Kiton workshop in Arzano today and you will find 350 tailors at their tables. The critical stages are not automated. Every pattern is hand-cut. Every buttonhole is hand-sewn. 137 stitches per hole, executed by tailors whose hands have developed the particular steadiness that this work demands over years of daily practice. Every lapel is hand-rolled. The sleeve attachment, the single step that determines whether the shoulder of a jacket works or simply sits there, is performed only by the most experienced tailors in the building. Men and women whose judgment at that stage cannot be replicated by a manual, a machine, or someone who has been doing it for less than a decade. The men who have studied how luxury houses operate over the last 30 years have watched brand after brand enter the conglomerate model, absorbed by LVMH, by Kering, by holding structures whose quarterly reports have no line item for handwork and come out the other side softer in construction, thinner in handwork, and harder in marketing spend. Kiton's response to this period was to acquire Lanificio Carlo Barbera, a wool mill in Biella, in 2009. Where other brands outsourced their fabric to cut costs, Kiton vertically integrated to control quality from the raw fiber all the way to the finished jacket. The K50 line, 50 hours of work by a single master tailor from first cut to last stitch, exists not as a marketing exercise but as a statement of what is still possible when you refuse to compromise. There are exactly 10 tailors in the Arzano building qualified to produce it. A K50 suit begins at around $40,000. The standard ready-to-wear line starts closer to $5,000. Both numbers reflect the same refusal to cut the work short. Every conglomerate in the world of luxury has looked at Kiton and calculated the acquisition. Kiton has remained family-owned, family-run, and answerable only to the standard Ciro Paione established in 1968. It is still in Arzano, it is still producing suits that earn the number on the tag, and it is in a boutique near you right now, waiting for the man who has finally stopped paying for a logo and started paying for the work behind it. If you made it to the end of this video, you now know something that most men who spend serious money on suits will never bother to find out. The suit industry did not simply decline, it was handed over to people who valued quarterly growth over generational craft, and most of the houses that once made the real thing went with them quietly. The 5 brands on this list did not. They chose the harder path. They kept their tailors, trained the next generation, and continued producing garments that justify what they charge. Hit that like button if this changed how you think about where your money is actually going. And drop a comment below. I want to know which of these 5 surprised you the most. Are you Team Kiton, the house that refused every offer? Team Cesare Attolini, the family whose workshop invented the form? Or Team Ring Jacket, the Japanese house that nobody told you about? I read every comment, and this is exactly the conversation this channel exists to have. If you have not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Every week, we separate what luxury actually is from what the industry tells you it is. I would love to have you on this journey with us. Remember, sometimes the most perfectly made suit in the world is not in the window of the largest store on the block. Sometimes it is in a quiet workshop in Naples or Osaka, built by someone whose name you have never been given a reason to learn, waiting patiently for the man who finally knows exactly what he is looking at.